Before they became NBA icons, some of the league's biggest stars built their legacies on the grandest stage of college basketball, March Madness. These 10 players didn't just play in the tournament, they owned it, delivering unforgettable moments that still give fans chills. These are 10 NBA stars that had epic March Madness runs. And to start, let's dive into the story of a freshman who walked into college basketball and in just one season left with a national title and a permanent place in history. Number 10. Carmelo Anthony. Most freshmen spend their first year adjusting, but not Carmelo Anthony. He spent his winning a championship. As a freshman at Syracuse, Melo didn't just help his team win, he was the reason they won. Melo averaged 20.2 points and 9.8 rebounds per game in the tourney, but the real masterpiece was his 33 points, 3 steals, and 14 rebounds in the Final Four against Texas. For his encore, the national championship game, Melo dropped 20 points, grabbed 10 boards, and dished out 7 assists en route to cutting down the nets against a very good Kansas team that was full of pros themselves.
Way outside, Anthony, yes sir.
Melo had just the one season to show off, but show off he did. One season, one championship, and one Most Outstanding Player award. He's still the gold standard for any freshman basketball player today. Melo wasn't the only freshman to dominate March and leave a champion. This next player was a blocking machine who won a title without being a dominant scorer. Number 9. Anthony Davis. If defense wins championships, then Anthony Davis was an entire army by himself. AD didn't just lead Kentucky to the title, he erased anything that came near the rim. His 13.7 points per game were solid for a freshman big man, but his defense was so ridiculous that his offense was essentially a bonus. At just 18 years old, AD grabbed 11.2 rebounds and blocked 4.8 shots a night. Then, in the national championship game against Kansas, despite only scoring 6 points, AD completely controlled the game with 16 rebounds, 6 blocks, 5 assists, and 3 steals. Davis's impact on that tournament was insane, and his run through March ultimately ended with a Final Four Most Outstanding Player and later the number 1 overall draft pick in that year's draft. Despite great individual performances, not every college legend ends their journey with a championship. Some players, though, have performances so transcendent they take over March Madness and even without a national title, make history, like this next player did at Davidson. Number 8. Stephen Curry. If you didn't know who Steph Curry was before the 2008 tournament, you definitely did afterwards. Receiving no offers from a power conference school and playing for the small 10th seed Davidson, Steph had the last laugh, averaging 32 points per game throughout the tournament, dropping 40 on Gonzaga, 30 on Georgetown, and 33 on Wisconsin while leading Davidson all the way to the Elite Eight. Imagine opposing coaches who passed on him, watching the young baby-faced assassin pulling up from way beyond the arc, shaking defenders and putting Davidson on his back. Whether we all knew it at the time, this run was the origin story of the greatest shooter to ever live. As the son of former NBA sharpshooter Del Curry, Steph wasn't a complete unknown, but the reason he was at Davidson was because few people could foresee the star Steph would go on to become. Someone who was a top recruit, a freshman phenom, and was expected to be a star. This next player might be the most naturally gifted scorer to ever do it. Number 7. Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's one season in college was basically an NBA preview. At Texas, he averaged 25.8 points and 11 rebounds per game and entered March Madness playing with the confidence and poise of a senior. Durant dropped 30 in the first round against New Mexico State, then put up 27 and 8 against USC before his Texas team was bounced early. His combination of height, skill, and shooting ability made him virtually unstoppable. 25 points a night is rare air for any modern-era college player, let alone a rail-thin 18-year-old freshman. Despite concerns about his strength, KD proved brute strength only matters so much when you can just shoot over the top of any defender. And even though his team didn't win a title, KD was so individually brilliant that he was named the National Player of the Year. While KD had an entire conference and then NCAA tournament run to make history, this next player burst onto the scene with one legendary game. Number 6. Dwayne Wade. We know him as one of the greatest shooting guards of all time now, but if you ever wondered how Dwayne Wade rose from Marquette to become a top 5 pick in the historic 03 draft class, it's time to watch and relive the moment Wade put the basketball world on notice. It was the classic underdog story, with Marquette making a magical run to the Elite Eight and facing off against the number 1 seed Kentucky Wildcats. The nation tuned in to see the powerhouse that was Kentucky, but quickly learned that the best player on the floor that day played for the other team. Wade was in his bag with 29 points, 11 rebounds, and 11 assists, and became just the 3rd player ever to record a triple-double in March Madness history.
Guarded by Wade, kicked, taken away, pretty tip by Diener, play on, a nice play by Ed Hightower too.
This one game helped set D-Wade's Hall of Fame career in motion. A triple-double on the biggest college stage was an early indicator Wade was destined for superstardom. Speaking of superstars putting up triple-doubles, this next player joined Wade in that elite club while putting a school even lesser known than Marquette on the map. Number 5. Ja Morant. Before Ja Morant started terrorizing rims in the NBA, he was busy doing all he could to make Murray State basketball must-watch TV. At the start of the season, nobody expected much from Murray State, but Ja Morant didn't care about expectations. He knew what he was capable of and believed he could show the world, even if he wasn't playing for a traditional powerhouse.
The tournament's 2 leading scorers, and hammers it home! It's a Ja Jam!
In the first round against Marquette, Ja went off for 17 points, 16 assists, and 11 rebounds. Another March Madness triple-double, just like Wade, and ironically against Marquette. Ja followed up his triple-double with a 28-point game and a loss against Florida State, but the world had seen enough by then to know Ja was a future NBA star. Now, while Ja was putting Murray State on the map, this next player was already the biggest name in college basketball before March Madness even started, and was the only reason Morant didn't go number 1 in the 2019 draft. Number 4. Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson was a different breed. He already had the number 1 overall pick, NBA-level buzz before he ever stepped on the court at Duke. By the time March Madness started, it was not a surprise to see Zion rise to meet the moment. Averaging 26 points, 8.5 rebounds, and 2 blocks per game, Zion was an unstoppable force. Overwhelming defenders with his blend of power, speed, and freakish athleticism. His most iconic moment was a jaw-dropping 32 points, 11 rebounds, and 4 blocks in a thriller against UCF. The game came down to the final seconds, where Zion bulldozed his way through the defense, drawing 7'6" Taco Fall's 5th foul before an RJ Barrett's putback saved Duke's season. Duke didn't win it all, falling short in the Final Four, but Zion left no doubts about his talent, and there was no question that NBA superstardom was next. We all watched as Zion dominated with sheer power and athleticism, but this next player was just as dominant without being nearly as physically gifted. The next player was one of the most skilled players of all time and dominated basketball with his 1 in a million ice-cold confidence. Number 3. Larry Bird. It was more than a March Madness run for Larry Bird. He elevated the sport to a whole different level. Before Indiana State's magical 1979 run, mid-major schools weren't taken seriously as contenders. But Bird, with his lethal jumper and court vision, turned them into a national powerhouse. He led Indiana State to an undefeated season, heading into the tournament averaging 27 points and 13 rebounds a game. The Sycamores made it all the way to the championship game, where Bird faced off against his soon-to-be NBA rival Magic Johnson and Michigan State. Indiana State fell short, but Bird's performance made him a national icon, setting up one of the most legendary rivalries in sports history. Bird would go on to become the most legendary Boston Celtics player of all time, but he wasn't the only future Celtics cold-blooded scorer to make his name in March. This next guy made his name hitting clutch shots when it mattered most. Number 2. Paul Pierce. Before he was the truth in the NBA, Paul Pierce was Kansas's go-to guy when the lights were brightest. In the 1997 NCAA tournament, Pierce was a walking bucket, averaging 21.7 points and adding 7.3 rebounds per game. He led the Jayhawks deep into March, consistently making tough shots and proving he was one of the best pure scorers in the country. His best game came in the Sweet 16 against Arizona, where he dropped 27 points to keep Kansas alive. Unfortunately, their title hopes ended in the Elite Eight, but Pierce had already solidified himself as a top NBA prospect. Kansas fans may have been heartbroken when Pierce skipped his senior season to go pro, but it was clear that Pierce was destined for a successful NBA career. Pierce was a natural basketball player with a smooth and steady game that translated well at the next level. This last player was a raw prospect who worked as hard as anyone to become the Hall of Fame player we ultimately know today. Number 1. Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook wasn't a 5-star recruit. He wasn't even supposed to be the face of UCLA.
Westbrook's going in. Take it home. Ties it at 30.
But what he lacked in hype, he made up for with relentless energy and pure determination. During UCLA's 2008 Final Four run, Westbrook wasn't just another player. He was their defensive anchor and a high-flying highlight machine from the guard position. Westbrook had a dominant 22-point performance against Xavier in the Elite Eight, showcasing his speed, defensive intensity, and mind-blowing athleticism to blow past his opposition. UCLA came up short in the Final Four, but scouts saw everything they needed to see. Westbrook wasn't just athletic, he was one of the most athletic prospects the NBA had ever seen, and over the course of several seasons, had gone from lowly recruited diamond-in-the-rough prospect to a future NBA superstar and league MVP. And there you have it, 10 NBA superstars who left their mark on March Madness. From unforgettable performances to legendary moments, these players prove that the tournament isn't just a battleground, it's a launchpad for greatness. The biggest stage in college basketball has always been where future legends rise. The only question is, who's next? So, which of these March Madness runs do you think was the most legendary, and who did we miss that you would have included? Let us know in the comments. As always, we want to hear them. If you enjoyed this, give us a like and be sure to check out our other videos right here for more great basketball content.